Hey, what's going on everybody? My name's Andrew, you can call me Pooch, and I'd like to welcome you to the Less Lonely channel. I'm really glad you're here. Today, I want to talk to you about the infamous 50mm 1.8 lens from Canon. Whether or not I think it's a good lens, and if I think you should pick it up. I believe I've said this like 3 times now, but I told myself I wouldn't become a camera YouTube channel, but I just keep finding myself talking about things that I'm extremely passionate about. So, I don't know what to tell you, but let's go ahead and get started. If you're a Canon user and you've been looking to upgrade your lens game with the RF glass, you may have noticed that nothing has been in stock for it feels like all year. Like seriously, I've been on a drip email from B&H for the 70 to 200 as well as the 85mm, and I think that they've updated the stock like once, and it's been months and months of being on this email thread. So yeah, that's a little frustrating, but recently there's been a couple videos out there talking about Canon's 50mm 1.2 lens. My suspicion is that Canon reached out to some YouTubers and was like, hey, we don't have stock of anything else that anyone wants, so why don't we go ahead and talk about this lens and maybe we'll get this sold as well, and that way we won't have anything in stock anymore. Tinfoil hats aside, when I saw these videos, I thought to myself, I've gotta have it. But then I remembered I have this little guy. The Nifty 50. The sweetest, cutest, littlest RF lens that Canon makes. I mean, look at this little guy. Okay, hold on. This is gonna be weird. Do you think I can bite the whole thing? This is so gross. Let me just try. This is really gross. An RF mount f1.8 50mm lens for 200 bucks sounds too good to be true. And it may be for some of you, but when you compare the price of the f1.2 glass at around $2,299, this $200 little cutie becomes pretty enticing. So how do we know if it's gonna be good for us? Well, the only way we really could know is if we put it to the test. And we're gonna do that today with some product photography while I talk through the points that I wanna make about this lens. All right, here he is, the Nifty 50. A couple things I want you to notice right off the bat is just how compact it is. I know I already tried to fit it into my mouth, but without the lens cap and a back cap, you can really see just how baby he is. I'll put it on the USR here in a second, but just take a moment to see that it can fit in the palm of my hand. That is a nice feature. The next thing I want to bring your attention to on this lens is the control ring. If you're familiar with RF glass, then you know that they all have these control rings on the side of them. You can even see it down here on this 85mm. Normally there's 2 control rings, one for focus and one for pretty much anything you want. I think it comes designed to adjust aperture, but I know some people disable it, and then I also know that some people like to change it to something else. So now you're probably wondering, well, with one control ring, how do I focus and how do I adjust aperture? Well, it's really simple. Where you might normally see an autofocus, manual focus, or image stabilizer switch, they've put this simple control and focus ring switch. What that means is that when it's set to control ring, it can adjust your aperture or it could be disabled, but when you switch to your focus setting, that's actually adjusting your manual focus. Now look, this thing is really nice and dialed in when you're manually focusing. If I'm in autofocus mode and I switch this to focus, it does not automatically start manually focusing. I have to go in and change my settings from autofocus to manual focus before I can start using this control ring. The last thing I'll say about this lens before we start taking pictures of these beautiful dunks is this. The minimal focus distance on this lens is phenomenal. If you're not sure what I mean by minimum focus distance, it's literally how close can this lens get to an object before it can't focus anymore. Having the ability to get nice and close with this lens means that I can get some really amazing detail shots where other lenses can't. My 85mm over here, for example, is a phenomenal lens and gives me amazing depth of field. I can't get super close to objects, so with this little guy, I can. All right, enough about the specs. Let's go ahead and get it on the camera and start snapping some pics. So I showed you a lot of different photos from this shoot, and I think that they look pretty good. But that's actually for you to decide, because we all have different standards and we all have different expectations for how certain things should look. So I definitely want you guys to let me know what you think of the photos and whether or not you think it's viable for professional use, or maybe it's just good for shooting around the house or shooting around on vacation. I definitely want you guys forming your own opinions on this lens, because I really feel like that's what it means to be creative together. It doesn't always mean agreeing and believing that this thing must be good or bad. There's a lot of gray in the creative world, so I definitely want to embrace that with you guys. So while you're deciding about whether or not you think the photos are good, let me leave you with a few takeaways. One good and then one I don't think it's a deal breaker, I just think it's something worth considering to help you make that decision. I think the first point is you just cannot ignore the price point. That is so affordable. Considering a majority of the RF glass is like over $2,000, the price is killer. It just is. You know, it may feel like a little cheap being a majority of the body is plastic, but I mean, I haven't had any issues with it. It hasn't broken on me. I haven't felt like outright fear that if something like bumped into this or if I knocked this while it was on the camera, that it would like break and fall apart. I mean, it's still well built. Canon's not building crappy things, but it is plastic. And the very last thing I want to say is that the autofocus moves very slowly, especially with IAF. Not only is it slow, but it's pretty noisy as well. I can hear it hunting, the motor's moving here in the lens. This guy sounds like he works really hard. And I think that's also just indicative of the price point. I often don't experience that with my 15-35 or my 85mm RF lenses. They're fast, they're quick, and they're quiet. One other thing is that this lens can be a little soft down at like the 1.8 to like 2.0 aperture setting. I noticed that on a commercial shoot I was doing. I had a second shooter and I let him use this, and a lot of the photos were just soft. They didn't really have good focus, and that's not on him. I mean, if it's a 1.8 lens, you should be able to use it at 1.8, and I think that you can. It's just that maybe for the higher pace or professional settings, you need to spend more time with it. For professional use, I don't know. I mean, I've done it, but there will come a point where I upgrade. I just don't know if the best use case scenario for this lens is in a professional setting. So for my parting thoughts, do I think you should pick up this lens? Well, if you don't have a 50mm, absolutely. Of course, I think you should get this. At $200, it's a no-brainer. I would say just know its limitations and either figure out how to work around them or just know when to use this and when not to. I think it's pretty simple, just like this lens. And that is gonna be a wrap on today's video. What do you guys think? Are you picking up the Nifty 50? Are you gonna save up some hard-earned dollars and get the bigger f1.2 version? Let me know down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And as always, thank you for helping me feel less lonely on my creative journey. If you wanna feel less lonely on your creative journey, then I would recommend liking, commenting. Why does commenting sound like such a weird word to me? Commenting? Why does it sound so weird? Like and comment and then ultimately subscribe so that we can be creative together and feel less lonely on our creative journeys. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Commenting. I bet I could bite it now that I don't have the back on. Do you want to do just a little taste? Oh, I could fit this whole thing, at least height-wise, into my mouth. I'm not gonna do it. 2 million views and I'll do it. Commenting. All right, goodbye.